Hello, and it's Leighton Mitchell from the Online Code Coaching, and in this tutorial, we're gonna be making we're going to be making a simple tornado. Now, it's not much of constructing the tornado, but it's more of we're going to be making the physics of how the tornado actually works. So what I'm gonna do here is just type tornado. And we're gonna grab something that's out here that is free. I think there's only one here, something about a ribbon, particle ribbon. We're gonna grab this particle ribbon and we're gonna go ahead and install it. Okay, with the particle ribbon downloaded and imported, I'm just gonna quickly create ourselves a nice little platform here to kind of demonstrate this effect. So nice little cube. Perfect. And then I'm just gonna let me just use a plane. Let's go ahead and grab a plane. Right click, 3D object, and then plane. So there we have a little plane, and I'll drop that on it to give it some color. So bam, wham, thank you, ma'am. Now put my camera in a position kind of like this. So I put myself in the position I like. Right, you can go around your scene. Get yourself in a nice position you want, and then the cool thing about that is you can then click on your main camera and tell the camera in the game object here, click on the main camera, go to game object, and then tell the camera to align with your view. So align with view, boom, and what happens, you can see here that the camera just took my position in the way that I was viewing. So I think I'm gonna like view it right here. Nice, just like that. Click on camera, boom, align with view. Perfect. Now let's go ahead and find this tornado that's in here. So go into the, let me just expand this so we all can see it. Boom. Wow, it's a long name. So we go into our particle ribbon by Moonflower, our carnivores, and we go into the prefabs folder. And then you see how you can't see the full like name of these because they're long. If you just make the size of them into a list by dragging this all the way down, you get a full list. It's kind of like a list view. And now that I have a list view, I'm going to look for the tornadoes. We got tornado this, tornado. Let's see what the difference are, right? I'm gonna bring this one out. I'm gonna bring this one out. I'm gonna bring this one out. So I got tornado area, which is this. Let's move it over there. Ooh, okay, I see why it's called tornado area. It just spawns a couple all over the place. That's cool. And then this, bring it over there. This is a tall tornado, and then this is just tornado. The one I'm going to use is not the tornado area, but I am going to use this tall tornado. So let me make my platform much larger. You can see on the Y, which is the height of the platform, right? My Y is 0. So what I'll do with this tornado is put his Y at 0 as well. So he's right on top of the platform, and bring him over here. So that is nice. There's my tornado, except when I create some cubes. Let me create one cube, add a rigid body to it. Hopefully I'm not going too fast, guys. Create a cube, add a rigid body to it. Then I'm just going to duplicate these cubes. So I'm going to duplicate about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Put some here. Put one there. Put one here. And then the other one just like right over there. Camera, you are a little bit too close. So back into the scene view, click the camera, go this side where I can see the forward motion or you know, the direction it's facing, because you won't be able to really see it from here. You don't want to mess things up, so you navigate your way around so you can see the arrow and then just pull it back. And I can see the preview window here, not still not what I want to see, so just maybe a little bit up and maybe still a little bit back and a little bit up. All right, that looks good. If I play, yeah, so tornado is looking good. It's not really doing its effect, and that's what this tutorial is really about. Just kind of get it to, you know, do stuff. Alrighty then, let's get into that part. So I'm gonna click on the tornado, and I'm just gonna see what they have inside here. So it's a particle system here, another particle system, and then some cool particles and stuff like that. So what I want to do first is create something that will actually attract, magnetic, something that will attract other things based on radius. Cool. So first thing we're gonna do with this tornado, let me just bring this cube a little bit back. I want to make sure it works. Oh, there was another one in there. Cool. All right, so there we go. First thing I'm gonna do is with this tornado, I'm going to add a component to this tornado. Looks like it has a script to randomize the particle, which is cool. Now we're not gonna touch that. So on the tornado, my tall tornado, I'm gonna add a collider. Which collider am I adding? I'm going to add a sphere. Sphere cap. I could kind of use a capsule collider. Could. Because that's kind of like the cone that it's in. I'm going to use a spheres collider. So spheres collider, this one. And wow, why is it all the way over here? Don't want it all the way over there. I kind of wanted it center of the tornado. This is weird. Alrighty then. So what I'll do is I'm gonna remove this because this object is right there and I thought it would be center. I'm gonna see if I can add it to this object. Let's do that again and see where it shows up. That's better. That's better. It shows up right in the center where I want it. So this will pose as a radius. Basically, anything that is within this radius should be pulled onto the object. So, all right. So what this spheres collider allow us to do now is that this spheres collider is kind of like a barrier around a tornado. But if you're in any of my class and you've gotten to the point where we spoke about triggers, you know that if we check this box, the collider becomes uncollidable. If that's a word, uncollidable. You can pass through it now. It's no longer like a barrier. Instead, it's just an outline of where the object is, and if anything enters it, it fires off the trigger mechanic. So I can put a script on this that says, hey, if something triggers, blah, 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 do this, do this, do that, which is exactly what we're going to do. So on this object right here, not the main tornado, but the object, let's play it because I like seeing it go. Not the main tornado, but the object here that has the collider on it. On that object, we're going to create and place a script. I'm just going to call this one tornado. Why not? So click on this object here. Particle master is what it's called. And drag and drop in this empty space to put the script to tornado, the tornado script on this object. So here's a cool thing is we can then open the script up. And here we are. The script has opened up for me. I'm gonna go ahead and just make it a little bit bigger here so we can see it. So here's the plan. The magnitude or the magnetation or the pull is not going to pull them towards the sphere, because the sphere is pretty big. We want to pull them like inside the tornado. So we're actually going to create an object that's going to be inside the tornado and pull anything that's within this radius. You see the big outline green ball. Anything that's within this radius will pull it towards that center object. So we're going to create a public game object. Actually, transform is fine. It doesn't have to be the game object. Transform and call this tornado center. And that's an object we're going to create later. And so we're going to pull stuff towards that later. All right, so next thing is we don't need these really. We need a on trigger. So on trigger enter. See? And an on trigger exit. So when they enter, we're going to call the function to pull. And then if, something get blown out, then they should not be affected by the trigger. All right, so here we are again. We're going to do a increase pull. It's going to be a type of function that you call that is an I enumerator. So we're going to say I enumerator, and then we're gonna say we'll say increase pull. Should we say increase pull? No, let's just call it pull object. And then here's the thing. I know I haven't gone into like if this is one of my students watching, I haven't gone into the parameters as much, but here's what we want to say right here. Now we want to give it a parameter of something like this. So this is a collider. So we're going to say collider. And what shall the object name, which is call it X. And then we're going to make another parameter here, which is a bool, which is true or false. And we're going to say can, or let's just say should pull. Why not? And then open and close curly braces here for the body. So the way this is going to work is we're going to say if, this might get a little complicated, and here we'll say if we should pull, then it's going to carry out the code. So basically on the trigger, we simply say if, and this other object, whatever it is, so whatever is entering the trigger, if the tag equals, let's just say something like OJB for object. We're going to make that tag later. If that's true, then and only then we will have to call this function. So you would say start quarantine. Then in here you give the function name. And then this function actually takes some objects. This function needs the object and a true or false if it, if it should actually pull it, because we set those up. So a collider and a true or false. So we will say that the collider that we're working with is this same one that just entered the trigger. So we pass that, send it to it, and we say true and send it to it. So now it should be pulling it, right? Then for the on trigger exit, same deal, except we say false. So now those information get passed down here, and I can tell it down here, okay, well, if it should be pulling it, then add this to that and blah, 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 and this and that and that and that. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna have the pull force. We need some sort of like a direction and pull force. So we might actually make some sort of variable called pull force. So a public float pull force. Boom, done. And in here, we can do a vector3, and we'll say force dr. So we're creating a variable called force dr for force direction, and that's going to be our tornado center dot position minus this x, whatever the x is, dot transform dot position. That makes sense. Cool beans. So now we will access whatever those objects are that are within range. So these objects, they all have rigid bodies on them. Let's access those rigid bodies so we can start adding some pullage to them, right? So x, which again, other represents the object that just enters the trigger. And when we pass it as other, passing that object. And when it gets down here where we passed it, now it's being represented as x, but still the same object we're talking about. So x dot, let's get the component on it, and we're gonna get the rigid body. Now that we have access to rigid body that's on it, we're gonna add force, and then we gotta tell it like basically which direction, how to add force. All right, so we will say add force in the force direction, and then a little simple word here that's called normalize. You can read the description and hear what it does, but in short terms, it just returns it makes it so that it's not like a weird number, if that makes sense to you. Because we're talking about numbers, ultimately. This is math. And then we're going to times it by the pull force. And then finally, we times it by the dot delta time. So basically the refresh rate of what we're dealing with. And that should cause it to kind of like pull towards the center here of this pull force. Cool. And then because this is a I numerator, you can see here where it's not liking the name. It's because it needs some sort of yield inside the code. So yield, return, and then maybe some sort of refresh rate. And then we're gonna do something kind of cool here where we're basically gonna call itself again. So if you think that's cool, it's basically what we're gonna do. So you say start quarantine, and it's calling itself on, of course, and represented by X, and then this is also being represented there. So it calls itself again over and over so that it doesn't stop pulling it until it's outside of the tornado. Finally, the refresh rate, let's go ahead and make a function for that. So just copy this name here. All right. And that is, oops, need one more right here. And that should do it, ladies and gentlemen. Small line of code here, about 34. But basically, 2 public functions, one for the force, one for the refresh rate. And then something like the tornado center that we're gonna make. All the objects with this tag will, you know, oops. We need to put this here as well and then do false. Because we need to be checking. We need to be checking for the tag. All the objects that are going to have the tag OJB will trigger the force for them to be pulled in. Then we send information down here, and our calculation down here will take care of pulling those force. With that set up, let's save. Head back into Unity. And we're going to do a couple of things. All of our objects, see, I have all of them selected. I'm going to create that tag that I mentioned, add tag. And it was OJB, all capital letters. That's how I named it. And so I'll select all these objects, click on tag, and tag them. So this one has OJB, 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 OJB. They're all tagged now with OJB. Next is these numbers, pull force. I'm gonna set this to about 30. Refresh rate, I'm going to say 2. Just to kind of see how that works. And then the center of the tornado is what I'm gonna make next. I'm gonna right click on this, create object. And what this does is put this in the exact center, but not like exact center of the object itself. Of course, with the particle, it's going up. So what I'm going to do is then just move this up a little bit like that. And now it's in the center. I'm going to remove the rigid body and turn off the mesh render, but it's still there. And let me just call it center. And then on this system here where it's looking for the tornado center, I'm going to drag that center and connect it so it has a center. Perfect. Everything is in place. I'm curious to see if this works. I'm going to press play and see what happens. All right, so it's playing. I don't see any errors. I'm going to start moving the tornado around just a little bit to see if it picks anything up. I wonder if our force is enough. Let's turn it up. Oh, look at that. You can see, and if I go towards a little bit towards here, you can see how it picks it up. And those all right, let's see something. Let's do about 500, and then I'm going to play. And you can see here we got a tornado being very effective. And if I move it a little bit, you see where it starts picking some other stuff up. And you see if they go outside the trigger, like it's not going to keep them. You can see there it's actually rotating right around as it really should a real tornado. And there you have it, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. If you're not already a subscriber, hit the subscribe. All you have to do now, I'm not going to do everything for you, but all you have to do now is create just some random movement for your tornado that it will just move across the platform. Just like it has the random script here for the particle, you can create another script that simply randomly move this object. Like I am moving it around myself. We can create a script that does this, that just randomly moves in certain location. And then anything that you want to be affected by the tornado, where is that at? Let's put it up here. For example, this cube here, anything you want to be affected, Mr. Big Cube, let's bring it up, add a rigid body to it, boom, so it falls. Anything you want to be affected by the tornado just needs to have the same tag as you made. So once I tag this with it, boom. Is it touching? Might not be touching. Get a little closer to it. It is kind of big. It is kind of big, so it might not pick it up. But let's see. It's got a rigid body. It has a tag. It should. Let's go out and then come and touch it again. There we go. It's got it. It's got it. So anything you want to be affected by the tornado just needs to have that tag. All right, guys. Catch you in the next one. Have a wonderful rest of your day.